All right, guys, we are just wrapping the final night of the DNC. It is complete magic. Mm-hmm. The flag has been reconfiscated away from MAGA, and it is now back in the arms of loving, kind Americans that want equality and liberty and justice.
It was absolutely unbelievable when all the flags came, and it really came through my head like, we're taking the flag back. Like, I thought that in my head. And of course, you know, what are you going to say about pink? What are you going to say about Kamala Harris?
It's just the dunking that the Democrats do with this so effortlessly. It's such an effortless dunk to be a Democrat because you care about everybody in the country. You care about equality. You care about the future of the country. You're not trying to make people believe your religion and your religion only, or your sexuality, or your gender, or your skin color. It's just a lot easier to be a Democrat. And all the cool people are Democrats. Therefore, the event is a lot more sleekly produced. You have a lot more star power. It's just, I can't even believe it's even a contest.
No, it's really jaw-dropping. But also, here we were stuck like sardines for 4 days with 50,000 people. There was not one cross word. Everybody was kind. And one benefit of being a Democrat is you don't have to be mad all the time.
No.
You get to be happy. You get to smile and enjoy other people. It's so refreshing.
So we have a little funny story to tell you guys. So we're standing outside this area, a studio, right in Media Row, and we're about to go in to interview the governor of Illinois, JB Pritzker. We're standing out and they're like, we're going to hold you guys out here. So we're standing there and you start to see people walk by. We saw Nancy Pelosi walk by and I was just like, oh my God, Queen Bee, boss bitch, let's go.
I mean, she's amazing.
And then we saw Jesse Waters walk by. We gave him the evil eye. Mm-hmm. And then Sean Hannity comes by and he looks directly at Pumps and me and he goes, oh, hey guys. And it was,
we were both like
death stare. I mean, I didn't even
act like he was alive.
No, I was like, I will not respond to this. Don't walk around here like you're popular, Sean Hannity. Don't walk around here like anybody likes you. You're outside of your bubble. You're away from your sycophants. And then we had a fantasy after he walked by. Because Pumps and I always do these fantasy things. And I said, God dang it. I should have said, oh my God, Sean Hannity, can I get a selfie? Just kidding. Fuck you. And so we had these fantasies back and forth that we were going to do that. But you guys, we met so many amazing people.
We did.
I mean, just people that were there, that were working for the campaign, the PR firm that was working for the campaign, the volunteers, to the politicians, to the surrogates. It was one of the coolest experiences of our entire lives. And we were able to sit down with JB Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and let's take a listen to hear what JB has to say about the Democrats.
Patriots, Gaytriots, and Natriots, we are here with the governor of Illinois, JB Pritzker. How are you today?
Great to see you. Great to have you in our state and our great city.
It is a fabulous state.
Yes.
Chicago is amazing. You have done a great job. I mean, everything is in tip-top shape.
Thank you. I must say, the weather's like this all year round. Just so you know, in Chicago, it's 75 and sunny and beautiful.
Yeah.
So you should stay. Really, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
But honestly, having 50,000 people come to your city and celebrate our nominee and head out of town with a mission.
Yes.
And they really are on a mission. You can hear it every night. People are ready. They are fired up.
Absolutely. So we like to ask our guests at the beginning what they've had it with. And this could be an everyday grievance, something that is just really grinding your gears lately. Governor, what have you had it with?
Well, I got to go with the most recent thing that I've had it with, which is, I don't know if you saw, last night, what a wonderful speech that Tim Walz gave and how lovely his family is. And you can tell, first of all, Tim has very kind eyes. You can tell a lot about people, just the way they look at people, the way they talk. He's a kind person. You can see that his family loves him a great deal. his son, Gus, is neurodivergent, right? And he's a wonderful young man and has challenges. And his family has, embraced him, and they've done so much for him, and they continue to. The right wing has now attacked his son. Gus Walz is under attack by the right wing. Ann Coulter, all these crazies on the right. And I mean, how terrible. That they know better. You barely have to do any research to know that Gus Walz is neurodivergent, has challenges, and yet they treat him online as if he's some kind of, strange, I don't know, somebody from outer space, or that he's, worthy of attack. This is a young man who's just trying to get through life with his support of his family, the love of his community. And, the fact that he cried when his dad was up on stage accepting the nomination, the fact that he cared so deeply, I think it hit all of us in the heart in a very positive way.
Yes.
And you know what I've had it with? It's the right wing attacking people for who they are.
Absolutely.
For just the fundamentals of, we ought to accept everybody for who they are, who they love, how they are. This young man is just trying to get through life, and has so much support in his community. And here you've got these right-wing crazies, because they don't know what to do except to attack. That's all they care about, and that is how they think they can win this election. I think the fact that they've attacked young Gus Walz is going to turn a whole bunch of voters who might have voted Republican into Democratic voters this November.
I hope you're right.
I watched that, and I thought Gus, I had no idea he was neurodivergent. I thought it was this beautiful thing. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, that's his dad, and the whole country is cheering for him. But I think it's a real window into the soul of how narrow-minded and cruel right-wing MAGA Republicanism is these days. They traffic in cruelty. They traffic in minimizing people. We live in a state where they're legislating laws where they're removing discrimination protections towards LGBTQ plus citizens. And in these states, you have, people that are suffering and being bullied by their peers. And then you have the government enacting laws that bully them. So as terrifying as that is to see how hateful they were to darling, sweet Gus Walz, they want to put that into law. They want to legislate hate.
I talked about that when I was up on stage on Tuesday, the state sanctioning discrimination.
Yep.
Saying that's okay. We're going to discriminate against LGBTQ people. We're going to discriminate against people who have physical or mental challenges, right? The idea that that's okay, and that the government should be legislating against those people. These are, first of all, they're our friends, our neighbors, their community members. Maybe you don't even know the person, but the reality is people ought to be free to live who they are. And again, people with challenges they're trying to overcome, those are the people that we ought to be standing up for. These are the most vulnerable people in the society. So, I mean, it makes me angry that that's who the Republicans are. Yeah. That party didn't used to be like that.
That's right.
I disagree with that. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I've disagreed with them. But when you think back to people like, maybe I'm older than you are, but, Bob Dole, Jack Kemp, Howard Baker,
John McCain.
Even George H.W. Bush, even George W. Bush. I mean, these are not cruel people that I've just named. This Republican Party is cruel. And the contrast between what they stand for and the kindness that is demonstrated by a person like Tim Walz and Gwen Walz, and what we're going to see from Kamala Harris. They're strong. They're strong people, right? They're tough people. They will get the job done. But they're not cruel. They're kind. And I want strong people who are kind in public office.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about how brilliant the Harris-Walz campaign has been at taking the idea of freedom and putting it at the forefront of this convention. Because for years, we live in a red state, and we'll have Republican friends that say, I'm a Republican because I'm for freedom and I'm for the Constitution. And yet I live in a state where my appointment with an OBGYN is now the government's business.
Right.
And that's weird, sick, cruel. I think against the Constitution. I mean, I think I have a right to privacy when I go to see a physician regarding my reproductive care. But they really are antithetical to freedom. And the Democrats have come back in and claimed that we are the party of freedom. And at the beginning, you notice I introduced like, hello, patriots, gaytriots, and natriots, because in our podcast, we're like, let's take that flag back. That's our flag. That flag represents freedom. I have had it with these hateful, cult, sycophant, Trump worshiping buffoons with their, flags on their trucks, running around, going bananas. It's like, enough. This is our country too, and we're the party of freedom. And how brilliant that has been on display here at the convention.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And by the way, I'm wearing an American flag here. I do it all the time. It's not for show. It's because just precisely what you just said. First of all, I'm a patriot.
Right.
I'm an American who really believes in our common American values, and that everybody ought to be showing that off, right? That what we believe in as Americans, it's something that I think all of us have a great deal of pride in. So symbols matter, like you were talking about the flags in general. But I also think that their brand is to attack. That's just what they believe. And they think that's how you win and that's how you should govern, right? That if you other people, that makes you more powerful somehow. I think the power is in inclusion. There's that expression about the arc of history bends toward justice. The arc of history also bends toward freedom.
Right.
And so we've seen freedoms expand. My mother was an LGBTQ activist and a reproductive rights activist in the 60s and 70s when it wasn't even it wasn't easy at all, right? This is before Roe v. Wade and before any rights had been extended to LGBTQ community. And I have to say that the freedoms that she was fighting for, which I completely believe in, we've seen the progress that was made over those, 50 plus years now, 60 years. And she passed away before she could see a lot of that progress in 1982. But I'm carrying it out. I carry her spirit with me everywhere I go as governor and in everything that I do, because we should be expanding rights, not contracting them, right? We should be standing up for freedom. The idea that you can't go take out a Diary of Anne Frank at some libraries because they banned these books. I mean, that's something I read about it that happened in the 40s, or 30s, or 50s,
right?
And that we did away with, right? I mean, that you have the freedom to read, find, be interested in whatever the topic is, and other people don't have to choose that to read. But things like, To Kill a Mockingbird, right, or the Diary of Anne Frank, these are things that, I don't know what's happened to the country when we're moving backward and taking away people's freedoms. So we needed to reclaim that mantle, because they use that word. They use that word all the time, freedom. But what they mean is freedom for them.
Right, right.
And they're okay with taking away other people's freedoms as long as they have freedom, whatever they define that as. And that is not what this country should be about or has been about. So I think this is a corrective moment in our world, right? We've had 3.5 years of Joe Biden, who's made a lot of progress, right? But he's also, in a lot of ways, just holding the line because these right-wingers have taken over Congress. Mm-hmm. Now, it's our opportunity in November to really retake the mantle of expanding freedom, of, again, the arc of justice bending toward, the arc of history bending toward justice and toward freedom. That is the country that I grew up in. That is the country I want restored. And Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to do that.
I love that. Okay, I have a question. You're the perfect person to ask. I'm reading about all these billionaires that support Donald Trump. I can't wrap my head around it because I assume they're smart, they're innovative, all of these things. So why do you think the billionaire class supports Donald Trump with his views, the backwardsness?
I always feel a little bit of defensiveness whenever I hear things like that, because I understand, as you know, I spoke on Tuesday night, and because of some schedule movement, I ended up speaking right after Bernie Sanders. and Bernie Sanders was, he's Bernie Sanders, right? And and you know exactly what he's going to say, but he was railing against wealthy billionaires,
Yeah.
And whenever I hear people sort of talk about the billionaire class, I know they're talking about other people,
Right.
and not me, because I'm a progressive, right? I mean, I really believe. I tried to get a graduated income tax passed and put into our Constitution in the state of Illinois, because guess what? Wealthy people should pay a higher rate than average working people, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. By the way, Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, would be a Democrat today if he were alive, but a great Illinoisan. Abraham Lincoln was the first person to advocate for and get the federal government to institute a graduated income tax. So I only mention that because, I think there are people, like Elon Musk and kind of the little bit of that tech bro class who have decided that they know better how government ought to be than the rest of the country. And they ought to be in charge. And even though they are a small minority, they believe they can buy their way into control. And they're doing it with Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't like Elon Musk or know Elon Musk very well. But you know what? Elon Musk basically offered him a bunch of money and a platform. And guess what? All of a sudden, Donald Trump is thinking, oh, maybe he's for electric vehicles. I mean, they're buying their way.
Right.
The control is going to these folks who are buying their way. And we've got to stand up against it, right? And I don't, I'm defensive when people talk about just every wealthy person is somehow bad. I know that's
Present
not
company
what you mean.
excluded.
I appreciate that, but it's not just me. There really are some great people out there who care deeply, and I can think of lots of them in Chicago and across the country. But, they don't get talked about much because guess what? They're not selfish. They don't need to have the spotlight on themselves. They're not trying to buy control. In fact, their beliefs are, and there are lots of people like this, their beliefs are that, the vast majority of Americans really should be dictating, the direction of the country. People who really need government, need us to have a government that's there for them. Right. And so we ought to have that, right? We ought to be supporting people appropriately, especially working families out there and the most vulnerable. And that's what I think Democratic Party stands for. And again, lots of supporters out there for that idea who happen to be wealthy. But I don't like it, just like you don't, when people like Donald Trump, he's very wealthy. Not as wealthy as he says he is, but he's very wealthy, and he's very selfish, and he's a narcissist. And that's kind of what the rest of those folks who support him are like, too. They're wealthy, they're narcissists. They think because they're successful, they must be smarter than and better than everyone else. So they're going to go with the guy who's going to carry out the policies that are going to enrich them, which is, their whole goal in the end.
And I think it's important to note that, your work day or Elon Musk's work day or the person who is the janitor here at the United Center all put in the same amount of hours.
That's right.
And all have the same value. And so I agree with you that sometimes with not all billionaires, not all millionaires, but some of them get that megalomania like Donald Trump. But what I want to shift to now is
I've made you defensive.
No, not at all. I agree with you that on the left we have to be cautious not to criticize people who have been very successful and made money. We can't demonize that. I think it's important that we don't do that because that's what America stands for, is having the opportunity to go out and be a successful business person, and it's just the land of opportunity. But I want to shift to kind of a little bit of little light bashing here. I think you're probably pretty good at it. So when you think about right now, if Kamala Harris, which we know she's vice president too, she's doing two jobs. So she's vice president of the United States, plus she is a candidate for president. Same with the governor, Walz. But if we look at just their job of running, and then we look at Donald Trump and JD Vance, I just want to focus on the Trump and Vance and how bad they are at their jobs, how bad they are at campaigning, because it is breathtaking to see what an abject, pardon my language, Governor, shit show the way they are campaigning is. I mean, I laugh all the time at it, but then I remember the PTSD from 2016, and I'm like, don't get ahead of yourself, sister. You need to wind it back. But it's remarkable how bad they are at campaigning.
Yeah, I give a speech about a year ago at Northwestern University, a commencement speech, and talked about idiots and how idiots often get ahead of you somehow in the world, right?
Yeah.
There are wealthy idiots. There
Yeah.
are people who get power who are idiots. But that the smartest people are often the kindest people. And Donald Trump is somebody who's an idiot who doesn't work hard, right? I mean, how many events is he doing a day? Less than one at this point, right? What does he do all day? We heard, actually, I think the great window into who he is during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. What was he doing? We all now know because there was all this testimony. He was sitting in the little dining room off of the Oval Office, which President Biden showed me the room. And he had his TV on Fox News, and he was basically for hours just watching TV. This is the President of the United States. Do you know how much there is to do every single hour of every day? And yet this is who he is, right? He gets up late. He doesn't really work very hard. He goes plays golf all the time. Talking about Donald Trump. And when he was president, did very little work. And so this is as a candidate who he is. He doesn't work very hard. What he does know how to do is to make a spectacle, sometimes using cruel language, advocating cruelty, to make a spectacle so that he gets the headlines, because in the end, he thinks that's what helps him. He's a person who shirks his duties, and he doesn't have a job, or he doesn't have a job. What job does Donald Trump have now? None, right? So his job is running for president. What does he do? Like, if you're not seeing him, you see Kamala Harris, how many events is she having a day? A ton.
Yeah.
And JD Vance, he doesn't have a job. Actually, if you look at JD Vance's resume, I looked at his resume. I would never hire anybody like JD Vance. You know why? Because his resume, he didn't hold a job for more than about a year and a half.
Yeah.
You know, people who switch jobs all the time, there's something.
It's a red flag.
It is, right?
It is a red flag.
Sometimes you can say, well, I was, climbing the ladder and I got a better and better job. That wasn't what he was doing. He was actually moving from place to place to place. And there's no record of why he left a place. But often when you see that, it's because they were about to get fired.
Right.
It's because they didn't get along with people. That's another reason, right? They weren't getting along with people at the place they were working at. They were about to have to leave anyway. And so they went and found some place to, so that they could leave all that behind and start over where people don't know you. And then you can start over and, make an ass of yourself at those places. And that is what his resume looks like. And so where does he end up? He lands up in the United States Senate, right? I mean, and think about it. And if you're Sherrod Brown, who's the other senator, and a great senator, and someone who truly stands up for working people and has been doing that for years, can you imagine that this is like your seatmate, your fellow senator, JD Vance, who knows nothing, has been a terrible, and apparently changes his views in a couple of years.
It totally does. And he can't even stand up against racist attacks from his own party towards his wife and his mixed race children, which is a huge window to his soul.
Well, he himself, I think some of the rhetoric that he uses is really misogynistic.
Oh, there's no question.
It's shocking me, but you know what? That's what Donald Trump picked as his mini-me.
Exactly.
And so the two of them are running around. I just saw a video, you should look at it online, of JD Vance going into a donut place.
I saw that.
Did you? And he didn't know how to talk to the people.
He's bad at his job. This is what I'm saying. They're bad at their job.
Because he can't relate to people.
He's bad at his job. They are bad campaigners.
He kept saying, well, how long have you worked here? She said 6 months. How long have you worked here? 2 years. Great. Do you like it? That's all he had to say.
He has no riz.
Yeah.
No riz. This guy has no riz. I never thought somebody could make Sarah Palin look like a decent pick for VP, and Donald Trump consistently out-crazies himself every chance he can get. But Governor, we want to play a game with you. We always end all of our episodes. It's a game called Had It or Hit It. So if you don't like something, you'll say had it, and if you like it, you'll say hit it. Okay? All right, had it or hit it, deep dish pizza.
Oh, hit it. Are you kidding? We're in Chicago.
That's right. All right. I asked a congressman from New York the other day, and it was a big had it. I'll tell you his name after the podcast.
They're wrong, though. Those guys from New York don't even know pizza. They don't understand pizza.
Okay, had it or hit it, public education.
Oh, hit it. We need to help. In fact, we need to do a lot more for public education.
Yep. All right. Had it or hit it, book banning.
Well, had it. And we actually passed a ban on book bans.
I love
Illinois.
that.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that's like a reverse ninja move, right?
Yeah.
Way to go, guys.
They don't know what to do with it. Their eyes are going like this, because the right wing, because they don't. What do you mean you ban book bans? I can't ban books anymore? Yeah. they can't.
History is never kind to the book banners.
No.
Never,
It
ever.
It never ends well, does it? Okay. Had it or hit it, Oprah.
Hit it. And I say that just hesitantly a little bit because, she used to live in Chicago. We loved her here. Then she got up and left, and I was very disappointed that she left because she was an advocate for Chicago.
Yes.
So, but I look, she's special. She is.
She is.
She gave a great speech and endorsement. And so hit it.
Okay. Had it or hit it. We just spoke about this, but I have to get it on the record, Governor. Had it or hit it, JD Vance.
Well, had it. And by the way, they should hide him. Is that another category?
He's his own category. Hide
They
him.
should be, yeah.
It's so
like they kinda are.
cringy. Watching him campaign
It's-
is so cringy. And if you notice DeSantis and you notice JD Vance, they try to be Trump
Right.
and they face plant. Whenever we finally rid ourselves of Trumpism, we're still going to have a problem with the existing cult. But the ones that try to mimic him, Lion Ted, Trump's words, not mine. We call him Governor Kitten Hills because he wears the platform heels.
DeSantis.
That's what we
Right.
call him on our
I love
podcast.
that.
I know. But they are never able to. They don't have the riz. As much as I dislike Donald Trump, he has a little bit of crazy riz.
Yeah, I have to say that I first of all, JD Vance, I watched a video of him. I don't know if you remember when he was on a tarmac and he went to look at the Air Force
Like
Two.
Stalker City.
Yeah, and then he comes back, and it truly cringeworthy. That he says, "Oh, I just wanted to see the airplane that I'm going to have when I become vice president." Like, give me a break. This is what you think people want to hear the next vice president is going to do? Is like, you want the big plane? That's why you want to be vice president?
He's a douche.
There's something
It's so bad.
weird about the guy, right? Really unusual. And anybody can change their views so much, right? He called Trump America's Hitler just a few years ago.
Right.
And now he's a sycophant for everything about Donald Trump. We don't know. The frightening thing is a couple of years from now, what are his views going to be?
Right.
Oh, exactly. Okay, last one.
Yes.
Had it or hit it, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Oh, hit it hard, I might add. I love these people. Really. And again, anybody who watched Tim Walz last night, he's got kind eyes. If you just put aside everything he said, and he talked about the pep talk that he wanted to give everybody. He's not a great speaker, but he wants to give a pep
was
talk.
fantastic.
A former coach. Yeah, and then his family, like I said, he cares so much about his family. You can feel it. You can see, and I've known him for a few years because we got elected at the same time. We're both very involved in the Democratic Governors Association and the National Governors Association. And I like him. I want to go out for a beer with him all the time because he's a great guy. And that's not a feeling you get about the folks on the other side. Would you want to spend any time with either one of them? Like, I'd like to learn more about JD Vance. No, I know too much about JD Vance.
JD Vance is the type of guy, if you're at a party and you're going into a room and he's sitting in there, you would turn around and go to avoid. He's the guy you avoid.
That's right.
Yeah.
And let me say about Kamala Harris, I think that back when Hillary was running, and I was very involved in her campaign, and I so admire her.
Oh, I do too.
But, back then there was this sense that, a woman can't be too tough because then, she'll be considered inappropriately tough, right? But men, they can all be tough and everybody gives them credit for it. That was kind of the talk of 2016, I think, if you recall, that Hillary had to, somehow moderate being, strong. I think the country has gotten over, I should knock on wood, but I think the country has gotten over that view. And that Kamala Harris is a kind and good person. She's also strong and tough. And one thing that people like about Donald Trump, even if they don't like the things he says or does, is they think because he sounds like a bully and he says tough things that he's strong. But Kamala Harris is strong in a way that combines with kind. And you get a sense of somebody who's getting things done, prosecuting the case or prosecuting the endeavor of standing up for working families, right? And she's doing that with a certain toughness and charisma. But you don't get a feeling, and again, I think the country's gotten over this, that like, well, that's too tough. A woman can't be that way. And so I'm looking forward to her demonstrating not only that she's got a great sense of humor and that she's a kind person, but also that she's strong. And we all want to see that, I think, in our president, whoever it is. And Kamala Harris seems to have that like in her soul. Totally. So I'm excited about that. I think that is a big deal. For 2.5 months, we get to prosecute this campaign to make sure that we're showing Kamala Harris to the public for who she really is. And that strength, I think, is a fundamental part of who she is. I can't wait to say, Madam President.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch her mop the floor
at that debate.
I saw what she did to Brett Kavanaugh, and I can't wait to see that happen. And I think women are roaring back, and I think now is the time. It is the year of the women. Governor Pritzker, I cannot thank you enough for joining us on I've Had It.
So
Thank
great
you
to spend
so
time
much.
with you. Yeah, you guys are terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Okay, you too.
I mean, what is it like to have a competent governor that's not embarrassing?
I don't know. I thought that the whole time. I was like, why is he not our governor?
And I just want to say this about JB Pritzker. He is a billionaire, and he is not trying to hurt people with his money or think that he's entitled to pay less in taxes. He realizes that other people work just as hard and don't have as many zeros in their bank account. And so I'm always mystified why the 1%ers you're so fortunate as far as material items. And then you get mired down in trying to get more.
Right.
Instead of helping other people. But JB was right in the interview. There's a lot of people that are incredibly helpful. They're just not loud and obnoxious. And just from two women that live in a state with a governor who is a complete dipshit, it's refreshing to sit down with people who advocate for every single citizen of their state. And you heard Governor Walz the night before last advocate for every single citizen of Minnesota and every single citizen of the United States of America. And at the end of the day, if your kid is a little different, or you fall in love with somebody that might be a different skin color, you want the JB Pritzkers, you want the Governor Walz, and you want the Kamala Harrises to advocate for you and make sure that there are protections against discrimination and basically laws that bully you.
It really is a nice, refreshing competence. It's just competence in motion. People care. They're problem solving. They're trying to make everybody's life better, not just their own. I don't think in the interview that we had with all these surrogates, it was like about that person almost ever. It was never. It was always about what can I do for somebody else? What can I make better because of my policies and my thoughts? And so it was just, especially from a place like Oklahoma, where we've got this fucking nutballs of the universe running around handing out Bibles to every school, putting the 10 Commandments in. I mean, it's just complete incompetence. And it's just
buffoonery, just embarrassing
clown
people
car,
that
stupid.
should not be in charge of anything.
I would not leave the people in charge of our state in charge of my puppy.
No.
Not even, it wouldn't even cross my mind. So it's unfortunate, but I really feel like hope is making a comeback, in the words of the great Michelle Obama.
And I hope that as Donald Trump emboldened a whole generation of dipshits like our governor and other politicians across the state, across the United States, to be hateful and to discriminate against women, to take away their rights and feel so righteous about doing it. I hope that this new era and this new deep bench of Democrats emboldens a whole new generation to fight for equality, to fight for racial justice, to fight for social justice, to fight for environmental justice, to fight for women, to fight for LGBTQ plus gun reform. I hope that this is the biggest electoral victory we've seen since 2008. I mean, we have got to have it.
There's a lot to do. And hopefully we've gotten so close to losing it, we'll appreciate it and take better care of it.
I want to thank everybody so much for following along our DNC journey. It's to do it with her. We've been friends for over 20 years. It's just, this has been one of the best weeks.
It has.
It's just, we're so fortunate that we were able to do it. Thank you for following along. Subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the podcast format, follow us all on YouTube, join our Patreon, and Pumps, what does an eagle say?
I'm so tired. Caw-caw!
We are so tired. Thank you, Patriots, Gatriots, and Theytriots. We love you. Let's turn out and vote for America on November 5th.